So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians.
Hello and welcome to the P.A.C.E radio show. My name is Al Graham and we are coming to you live, yes live, here on LifestyleRadio.ca as well as at Spreaker. First off, I'd like to say I hope that all of our listeners are doing well tonight, and to let you know that my joint host, Debbie Stultz-Giffin, has invited as a guest, much like her last one, a person who has been a big voice in the medical cannabis community and gets involved with a lot of things. But before we learn more, I'm going to have a little chat with Debbie. Debbie, are you there?
I am, Al. How are you?
Good. Not too bad, just waiting for spring to arrive and just waiting for 420 to come down the pipe. We're less than a month away.
Yes, April's just around the corner, certainly. We've, our group here in Nova Scotia, Maritimers Unite for Medical Marijuana Society, have actually decided to take a slightly different tact. We're holding a medical cannabis conference in Truro this Saturday just before 420.
Oh, that way it's open to the public, allow people to come in and get educated?
Yes, most definitely.
Good. Getting the word out, let everybody know it's there. Make sure if you got any information on that as far as a website or anything at the end of the show, make sure that we let listeners know where it's at.
Well, actually, we hope to have a Facebook page up within the next couple of days. We had a slight glitch in the planning process, but we hope to have that all ironed out within hopefully the next 24 hours, and we'll have a Facebook page up and rolling, and we certainly have some interesting speakers lined up.
Good.
But I won't tie up any more time promoting right now.
Talking about patients and stuff like that. We're just talking there a little bit before the show about a mutual friend of ours, Lori, and a bit of a situation that she was involved in on Parliament Hill.
Well, yes, I believe last week, if I'm not mistaken, your guest was Tamara Cartwright-Pullitz, who would have been speaking a bit about the National Task Force on Medicinal Cannabis.
That was 2 weeks ago, correct.
Okay. A group that now 4 organizations have come together to support to ensure that a constitutional medical cannabis program is put in place now that we have the Allard decision, which I'll get into talking about further with our guest later on in the show. But these 4 groups have appointed Lori McEachran as our volunteer patient lobbyist, who's going to the Hill to ensure that patients have a voice in the process of the formation of a new medical cannabis program. She got to the checkpoint to get in the door today to meet with a couple of the senators. One of them, in fact, ironically, was Senator Larry Campbell, who's been quite outspoken in favor of legalization here in Canada. And the RCMP wanted to see what patients fondly call our pink slip, which would be the paper that was issued by Health Canada to authorize us to have cannabis in our possession. Because of this court decision, there's not a patient in the country who has a pink slip any longer that has a date that reflects anything remotely current.
Correct.
And Lori said, well, we have the Allard decision, sir. And this cop very rudely did not want to hear anything about the Allard decision whatsoever. He just didn't want Lori entering the building. She was turned away, met one of the senators outside of the building, and contacted Senator Campbell. He's certainly aware of what happened and is looking into it, and there will be more to follow on this situation, I'm sure.
I'm sure there will be. That's for sure. You know,
But I mean,
like, is there something that, I know, like, when the injunction came out, there was something that was given to us, or, you know, that we could download and we could post in our gardens. Is there something along that line that where a patient could carry, you know, like the number of the case and so on and so forth with them to present to them? But I know that an officer, you know, probably wouldn't have access to that stuff right in front of them either anyways to confirm it.
I haven't checked recently, Al, but the Health Canada did have a statement on their webpage that explained who technically had legal coverage and who didn't, that I carry with me. But by and large, from what I've been hearing online and from my experience with going with one patient into a local RCMP detachment to try to claim medicine back that had been taken from him, these RCMP officers didn't know about the injunction. They don't know about the decision. Some of them in some places seem to know something about the Smith decision, and some of them don't. It's really incumbent on our Minister of Justice, I believe, at this point. I believe that's who's responsible for the RCMP, to step in and make sure that the head of the RCMP issue a statement to all of the detachments so that they're all on the same page and that they're not wasting taxpayers' money by detaining, sometimes arresting patients, sometimes charging them for possession, like I believe it was John Snow, a patient in Ontario on the weekend who was pulled over and harassed and charged with possession. And
Correct.
Had medicine taken from him in front of his children, and now they're traumatized. I mean, it's just so needless.
Correct, so, exactly. And like you say, something all that has to be done is something a directive has to come from up top down to the others to let them know. It's patients are being victims.
Definitely, and actually, ironically, I met with my MP in a fairly large riding in Nova Scotia. Well, it's geographically large anyway. The number of constituents isn't necessarily so huge, but he sits on the Justice Committee, and he was quite surprised to hear that patients were still going through this, and in fact it was his intention to take that back to the Hill and investigate it a bit further himself.
Good. It's good to see that someone's going to investigate it. Well, talking about patients and injunctions and all that stuff, I think it's time to welcome our guest to the show, and that's cannabis patient advocate Jenn Bennett. I'd like to welcome you to the P.A.C.E Radio Show. Jenn, are you there?
Hey, everyone.
Hi, Jenn. How you doing?
I'm doing not too bad, thank you.
Good. You're out there on that lovely West Coast, enjoying probably the pleasant weather.
Rain, more rain.
We can send you some snow.
Sometimes I wish, guys, but we get rain.
I'm going to get some rain. I'm going to get rain for the next 24 hours. And maybe a little bit of freezing rain thrown in there. So, yeah, lots of rain all across the country by the sounds of it. We're moist. So, all right. Well, welcome to the show, Jenn. And usually this here is we just allow the joint host to ask the questions. And every once in a while, I'll just jump in along the way. All right?
No worries.
Okay. All right, Debbie, over to you. Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks, Al. And feel free to jump in at any point in time.
I shall.
Right on. Jenn, let's start on a really personal level.
Sure.
You're a patient who uses cannabis as medicine. Would you mind talking to our listeners a bit about why you use cannabis, what forms you use it in, how it helps you, and just to give them a little bit of an insight?
For me, I have some childhood issues that have caused PTSD throughout my life. So I use that for that, and cannabis for that. And I also have degenerative disc disease with a spine of about a 70-year-old. And so I use cannabis for that. There's quite a bit of things. IBS, fibromyalgia. I've been diagnosed with COPD, just different things. And I find that cannabis has been helping, and just alone in my blood work. Like, I don't have diabetes 2 anymore. My kidneys are functioning a lot better. Because I've had kidney failure twice from pharmaceuticals, so pharmaceuticals isn't really an option for me, and so that's why I use cannabis in pretty much all forms. I dab it, I have lotions, creams, I smoke joints, I eat edibles. Starting at the end of November, I started using suppositories, and I have to say that's probably my best relief is through suppository, fast and long lasting. So yeah, there's so many ways. Coconut oil capsules, lots. Any way I can get it in my body.
Now, one of the conditions you mentioned, I'm sure, might raise a few eyebrows, and that would be using cannabis to treat COPD.
I drink a lot of tea, a lot of eating and stuff like that. I've read that cannabis opens up it helps with your airways and the air sacs that are in your lungs and stuff. I'm not a biologist, but that's what I have read, and I feel better. I breathe a lot better, and I feel a difference inside. That's all I use is cannabis.
Well, and it's certainly not a concept that's foreign to me as far as people I've talked with to certainly use cannabis to treat lung ailments. It's just that so many people go, "Oh my God, you're using cannabis to treat something breathing related," and
absolutely,
they get a tad excited because they just don't understand the plant and its capabilities.
Well, look at the little ones in their epilepsy. Like, I don't suffer from epilepsy, but I have seen some amazing miracles of children and adults with epilepsy, like instant results.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I'm sure you know Haley Rose.
Yes, Haley's out this way.
Yes, I met her actually 5 years ago in Ottawa, and I walked into their hotel room as Haley was going into an episode of seizures, and it was remarkable to watch the transformation with that young girl.
Well, I think now she's about 300 days or something like that without any seizure.
That's wonderful news.
200 or 300 days. I know she's a long time now without a seizure.
Wow. That's terrific. So, getting back to your health regime, you mentioned you starting to use suppositories in November. How often would you insert them?
Daily. I usually do it at night. Yeah, I do it at nighttime. It really, 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 really helps me with my sleep because I don't sleep very well due to stiffness and just like brain activity. It's just like my mind goes and goes and goes all the time. So I take some at night, and if I'm having a bad day, I'll take some in the afternoon. But I medicate daily with the suppositories, and I've noticed that I'm the lurch. Was standing with a lurch, and I know that on most days now I can kind of get away with not quite having such a bad lurch.
Wonderful.
I notice results right away with the suppositories. I got to be straight up, like right away. I don't care. I know where it's going, but the results you get from it is just utterly amazing.
It's certainly something I haven't tried, but plan on trying. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at a shelf behind my computer and a few of the molds to make them, but just haven't taken the time to explore it further.
It's an option that many people never even think about, don't even know it's even there, and for people who maybe who have digestive issues that can't eat certain things, or a person who maybe has to be fed through a tube, and they can still get the benefits through cannabis that way.
You do Gravol that way. You do. There's so many meds you can do that way when you can't take other meds. Like I don't know. I just don't think there should be any shame in taking a suppository at all.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, I can understand.
If you want
guy with Crohn's,
you need to get it.
Yeah, it should be. You would think it should be stigma free, right?
Absolutely.
But it was interesting at Mom's Christmas Bazaar and Forum that we had. One of our educational components was all about suppositories, and there was a crowd of probably 50 people glued to the speaker, full of questions about how to make suppositories, how to use them, the benefits, and the whole nine. People were keen to learn, and as well the silicone molds are something that we pick up to make available for patients at a reasonable price, and we've had a lot of people coming to us looking for those molds.
Oh, I did a story for a place, and they got 11,000 views very fast. And I've been approached by people adding me on Facebook just for that article on how and why, and what do you do? How do you do it? Just so many questions. People are very curious on the suppository use of cannabis.
Well, and I think there was that similar curiosity with ingesting oil and making capsules, and I almost wonder if it's because it's not in what might be considered a more being delivered in what might be considered a more traditional medical model, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly.
Exactly. Yes, that's right. Well, you're right. A lot of people, some people will say, well, if they don't get stoned, or get some euphoric feeling, then they look at it as, well, it didn't work. And that's just what they're used to. They're just used to that type of stuff. And, they're just used to smoking a joint. So people aren't it's just not normal, I guess, or I'm not going to say no, we're not. People don't look at that as a way of medicating because they're so used to the joints and bongs, and it's new to everybody. So,
well, I know somebody who has no desire to have any euphoric high whatsoever. Right. So I promised them that there would be no euphoric high this way, and they were somebody that were just filling their mouth full of pills to make it through the day because of the pain. And they're only in their early 30s, and they got a long life ahead of them. And to take pills like that, it is. It's not good for your organs, and he is completely on the program now with using suppositories.
Great.
He has complete relief, complete sleep, complete relief.
Great to hear. Well, it's break time for us to go for a commercial break. And as always, we like to highlight a Canadian cannabis band. Tonight, our guest is from BC. So I picked a song by the Hicks with a song called Good Old BC Smoke. And when we return, Debbie and I will continue our talk with cannabis patient advocate Jenn Bennett. This is the P.A.C.E radio show on LifestyleRadio.ca. This is the P.A.C.E radio.
All right, boys. Now, don't forget, I'm the director. Billy, grab your guitar. Gabby, grab your guitar. All right, boys, let's do it. Hey, hi, out there, it's in the air. It's BC, but tonight, the pressure blows.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet. www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
This is Al Graham of the P.A.C.E radio show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the P.A.C.E radio show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on LifestyleRadio.ca.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
The pressure blows and the embers glow as they give the bong a light. The buds they grind, I do find this shit's really insane. The crowd it roars, cause Bobby scores some BC Mary Jane. Oh, the good old BC smoke is the best smoke you can toke, and the best smoke.
Hello and welcome back. You're listening to the P.A.C.E radio show live here at LifestyleRadio.ca, as well as on Spreaker. Or you can find us at other audio locations such as Mixcloud and TuneIn Radio. Have you listened to or have you visited the P.A.C.E website lately? Did you know that it has therapeutic links for those who are doing some research? Talking about research, the P.A.C.E website also has information and links to 20 world cannabis researchers. You can go to their YouTube stuff as well as what you can find in a Google search for them. There's also links to our new magazine, Grassroots Advocate, as well as one to our radio program, where you'll find a short bio on all of us here at the P.A.C.E radio show. So once you got done listening to us tonight, then by all means, check out the P.A.C.E page at P.A.C.E-online.ca. Tonight on the P.A.C.E Radio Show, I am joined by our guest, cannabis patient advocate Jenn Bennett, plus a super joint host, Debbie Stultz-Giffin of the Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana. Jenn, you there?
Sure are.
Sure am.
Good. Okay, before the break, we're discussing the suppositories and the benefits, and about being open and talking about them, and people shouldn't be ashamed about them, and so on and so forth. So I'm not quite sure where you want to take the conversation from here, Deb.
Well, I haven't quite decided. Jen, was there anything else you wanted to add about what we were talking about before the break?
No, not really. Like I said, just don't knock them until you tried them. That's all I gotta say.
Well, like I said before the break, it's something I'm certainly interested in investigating. I know others here in Nova Scotia who've been using them with great success, and
I've seen remissions from it, and you don't need the full-on RSO, just straight coconut oil and cannabis, and make them into suppositories. It gets right into your system.
I need to get at it, I guess. No more excuses.
Bottoms up, Deb.
Busted, yeah. Bottoms up is right. I'll think of you, Jen. What can I say? And I can't even remember, to be perfectly honest, with the timeline. I'm guessing it was roughly 2012, late 2012, when the MMAR Coalition Against Repeal started to rally.
Yeah, I think it was around 2012.
Yeah. And I can't recall. I remember you being involved, but I can't quite remember when you became involved in the process. But
what had happened was my doctor, because I had really, really, really severe depression and was on antidepressants, and he told me to get involved in a group, and that's when I had met Jason and some of the people in the coalition, and I think it would have been around fall of 2013 I really started getting into the activism. So not long, but I went in head first.
Sometimes we have little choice but to jump in head first, or with both feet, whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there's some that are out. Then there's some that are out there that we call accidental advocates. The parents that are dealing with the children, they never thought a day in the life that they would be involved in what they're doing when it comes to helping support their children in using cannabis.
You see so many these days. What about that little girl in the Okanagan whose stuff, I guess, recently was held up? And
I read that. Yeah, she was trying to get Charlotte's Web or something across the border.
Yeah, got held up.
You just
look at her grandparents. Her grandpa, I think, wasn't he a retired police officer or something like that? And he's all for his granddaughter in cannabis.
It's sad. I mean, it should be available for the children, and yet Health Canada scream that nobody under the age of 25 should have access to it, period. But I mean, with they've got one hand restraining them from cannabis, and in the other hand, they're willing to. Most recently, I saw they've approved. Is it OxyContin for children?
Oh, I know. That's brutal.
And they've done no research on children with any of these freaking medications, because, I mean, ethically, how could you test medications on children when you don't know what the effects will be? But yet they're willing to dish it out like friggin' anything, like friggin' Smarties in a bowl.
Well, look at the ADHD meds and stuff like that they have kids on. Like, some of these meds are like, they're antipsychotics. They're hardcore. When a little bit of cannabis could help them.
The Ritalin. Just have the truck at the back of the building. Just pump her in. Oh yeah. It's not good. It's, the cannabis. They talk about, Deb mentions the end of the 25, and they're worried about the developing brain and stuff. And when I look at a young child who's going through seizures like that, I am thinking about children, and I'm thinking about extending their lives, and I'm thinking about improved quality of life. And yeah, I'm thinking about giving them the cannabis oil so that you can do all that instead of giving them something that's going to turn them into a zombie.
Well, exactly. They certainly need to have a little more compassion. And I mean, the hard part is we do have a new federal government in place, but you don't have to go very deep within that government, and you're running into the same old bureaucrats with the same old mindset that were there when the Harper government was in place. And this Canadian Centre for Substance Abuse, who were hyping this propaganda because it sure isn't bona fide research, were funded by the previous conservative government to look at cannabis and the effects on the developing brain. I think they got $11 million to do it. So, of course, they're going to come out saying stuff like this.
Yeah.
It's just not fair because the children are our future, and to dope them up like that is it's sad.
It is, Jen. I mean, it's unforgivable in my mind.
Yeah. Deb mentioned that you were involved with the coalition and all that. Jen, what all were you doing when you were involved in? Like I was involved in the past, and I got involved in
I started out
just and stuff.
Kind of admin, just sharing stuff in the group, and then I moved to committee, and I was actually secretary on the board of directors until this past January. I just resigned and went my own way. And we all take turns. I've thrown one event here under my One Love for Patients, and we raised $13,775, and that went to John Conroy. And
that's phenomenal.
This was on Friday, so we got some more. We got money still coming to the patients.
So what was that? Love for the patients? What was it again?
We just went and made a Facebook group called One Love for Patients, and it's just patients helping patients, and no rules, common courtesy, compassion. We just wanted to I just wanted to keep going in my own way, just how I wanted to do it with some like-minded people, and pulled off a fundraiser, and I'm quite proud.
I guess, hey. I'm sure there's a few groups that would like to have you as a fundraiser.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm genuinely in it for the patients, and that's who I'm for.
Yeah. Deb?
That's awesome, Jen. What sort of a fundraiser did you put on?
We had a fundraiser. We had some live music from a local band here in Chilliwack called the Dusty Aces. They're a rockabilly band. And we had just some regular music. We had pizza. John Conroy came and gave an amazing speech for it was just over half an hour. And that can be found online. Alexei Milenko. He did L&B Productions. Anyways, he has a very good recording of John's speech at the event. And it was amazing. It was quite quaint, but we had an outpour of donations of prizes. It was just unreal, overwhelming. We almost said if there's anybody who hasn't won something, go to the table and pick something.
So no one went home disappointed.
No, it was fun. It was out in the country. People traveled for it. I was very impressed. Like, they came from like Kelowna, the island, Kamloops, all over, Sunshine Coast, all
Nice.
over.
And obviously you got lots of support from the cannabis, I'm going to say the business community.
Actually, a lot of the businesses stepped up, but I'll have to tell you, we got 8,000 cash, which came from medical patients.
Wow.
So 8,000
Really?
cash came from medical patients, and we got a surprise check from Crop King Seeds for $1,000 the night of. A lady came, I'm sorry, I forget her name, but Crop King Seeds were present there and brought $1,000 check, and it was presented to John that night also. And then with all the other donations, it works out to, just about $14,000.
Wow. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yes, yes.
So if folks wanted to hear the speech that John Conroy gave that night, is it on your One Love?
It is, I believe, on the One Love for Patients page on Facebook. There, they can go there, and it's posted by Alexi. I'll make sure it's on the page. After the show, I'll make sure it's right there. But if you go to One Love for Patients, it'll be there, and it's about a 34-minute speech by John Conroy.
Wow, 34 minutes.
I believe they also have it. I'll just make sure the link is there, and I'll write that it's John Conroy's speech.
Yeah, and if it's not there right after the show, I imagine you'll have it up the next day or two.
Yes, I will. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you know, hey, there's always types of gremlins that are in the system. Something's waiting to mess you up, man. Believe me.
Not that you haven't run into a gremlin or two today, A.M.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Got the T-shirt, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's why we're 5 minutes late getting the show started. but hey, you know, that's what happens when you're dealing with live shows. Things can happen, and you know, hey, we're here and we're still doing the show. So, and to tell you the truth, we're getting pretty close to our next break, and we got about another minute or two, Deb. So, if you got anything quickly you want to get in before we go? Or what do you think?
I can't think. I certainly want to get into after the break talking about the Allard decision and the implications from it and
next month.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and even tomorrow is an important day, I believe, too, isn't it?
Yes, tomorrow's an important day. And
okay. Yeah, we can talk about all that when we get back. When we get back from the break. So, all right. And tonight's featured band for our music is the Hicks, a West Coast band, and with their song Good Old BC Smoke. When we return, Debbie and I will continue this conversation with cannabis patient advocate Jenn Bennett. You're listening to the P.A.C.E radio show here at LifestyleRadio.ca.
The potheads stash the greatest hash with buds they do grind. They roll 'em fat like baseball bats for 20 all the time. They grow like trees with bumblebees. They smoke 'em with a burning flame. So crystal white, it's dynamite. The BC Mary Jane. Oh, the good old BC smoke. It's the best smoke you can choke. And the best smoke you can smoke is the good old BC smoke. Oh, the good old BC smoke is the best smoke you can smoke.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
The National Task Force on Medicinal Cannabis is a group of not-for-profit organizations dedicated to influencing government policy with factual evidence. Our mission is to ensure that a constitutional medical program is developed that will address the concerns of all Canadians that require therapeutic cannabis. The task force is looking for dedicated people who are willing to contribute to our cause. We have formed this task force to foster a unified approach and focus on lobbying the federal government and Health Canada. We represent the combined expertise of thousands of patients with more than a decade of experience. As a task force participant, you, your business, or your group will have an opportunity to show that you care and offer your unique skills to promote the cause. If you would like to get involved, go to medcanataskforce.org. That's medcanataskforce.org and use the Contact Us link to get started. Help us help you.
Tune into the P.A.C.E radio show and catch Kim Cooper, Debbie Stultz-Giffin, or Allison Merlin, along with myself, Al Graham, as we talk to Canadian and international cannabis advocates who are working hard to help patients and to end cannabis prohibition. Catch us live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here at LifestyleRadio.ca.
Third period, last joint in the bag. Oh, take me where the potheads go, and the weed it smells like skunk. And have a treat, made to eat, a butter made from bunk. Oh, spark a bowl and torch the knives, take that doobie down. Roll a blunt of BC skunk, this is the best bud ever found. Oh, the good old BC smoke.
Welcome back, and thanks for tuning into the P.A.C.E radio show. We are being broadcasted live at LifestyleRadio.ca. Plus, you can find us at Shoutcast, YouTube, and other social media. Tonight we feature the West Coast band The Hicks and their song Good Old BC Smoke. If you enjoyed tonight's song, you can find it, plus much more, and believe me, there are much more. They have other songs that you'll hear in different shows. So you can hear much more of their music and their zany videos on YouTube. Tonight on the P.A.C.E radio show, I'm joined by the guest cannabis patient advocate Jenn Bennett and my joint host, Debbie Stultz-Giffin. Jen and Deb, are you there with me?
Hey, Al.
Good. I see Jen's there. Now Deb's about to appear, right?
Yes, ta-da.
Ta-da.
Sorry
Just like a
about
magician.
that. I had my mic muted there for the break.
Yes.
And then
That
I
happens.
was so busy listening that I forgot to turn it back on.
Hey, that happens. All right.
It does.
Before the break, we had discussed what we're going to talk about in this break, and that has to do with the Allard decision, right? Yep.
Yes, for sure. On February 24th, patients from coast to coast, I'm sure, were glued to every form of social media imaginable, just waiting for a whisper of the word from Justice Phelan as to how the ruling was going to swing in the Allard hearing. Where were you, Jen, when you first got word of?
Me, I was at home, but I was waiting and waiting and waiting. I was checking all the. I think where I got it was I just went to the site that morning, the federal court site, and I was at home. I was looking for it though.
Okay. Crawling over all social media. I think many of us joined you in that, Jen.
Well,
they waited too long. For me, they just waited too long, and just
think for you, Jen. It was at 9:00 your time. Deb and I had to wait till noon. Deb had to wait till 1:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
it was brutal, and then of course at exactly 1:00, everybody's going, okay, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And it was what, maybe 15, 20 minutes before it was finally released somewhere. It was certainly.
I got the email on the CCC, I think, isn't it? John sent out an email stating that the decision.
I first saw it on Facebook, I think.
I saw it on YouTube.
Well, and interestingly enough, here we are on the eve of the month later. I mean, basically, they have a month to appeal, according to what I've seen from Kirk Tusaw's statement, from what I saw in that shorter version of the John Conroy video that we talked about in the last segment, Jen. Tomorrow's the drop-dead date that Health Canada have to announce an appeal on this.
And word out there is they're not going to, is from what I hear anyways.
Well, fingers crossed. It certainly seems to me it would be a hypocritical move on their part if they did. Not that any government's above hypocrisy, but
yeah.
Oh, did I say that out loud? But I would
she's only speaking truth. That's all she is. She's only speaking truth. You never know.
I would think we'd almost have some indication by now if they were going to launch an appeal. I suspect what their move would be to ask for an extension, if anything.
Yeah, possible.
That's what I've been thinking, that there might be an extension. Or could it be something as they've already know what they want to do? And you look back in the MMAR part of it all, Debbie, you're involved in all that. How many times did it get ruled unconstitutional? And it came back, and all they did was just tweak it. So minor. Just so little, to go from a person who could grow for themselves to all of a sudden now to allow them to grow for one other person.
Well, yes. I mean, that went through the court a couple of times, and they kept gradually tweaking it just a little bit. The Hitzig decision managed to pry the lid off the Flin Flon mine and forced Health Canada to start releasing that, but they waited until I think they had 6 months to fix the program at that point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they have 6 months, and they had 1 month to appeal it.
Yeah.
Yes, but with Hitzig, they waited until the absolute last minute to announce that yes, they were going to start releasing the cannabis from Flin Flon, but they needed 6 months to figure out how they were going to distribute the medicine, kind of thing. So it's either slightly tweaking or this great stall and delay process.
Yeah.
And the only one suffering is the patients here.
Correct.
Oh, don't you know it, Jen?
Yeah. Like, is it, can they, like, basically I look at where's their time, their opportunity to end? Does it go until the end of the 24th, or can they still appeal at some point tomorrow?
I'm not sure. I think they have until and including tomorrow, probably business hours.
Yeah, business hours. Then
probably
business
Pacific time.
Yes, more likely.
It's tending to fall Pacific time anyways.
Before the break, you mentioned something important coming up next month. I'll get you to fill our listeners in on that.
Now, I don't know it all to a T, but I do know that they're going to go and talk about the harm that the people that have been left out are experiencing, because I know not last summer, I believe the summer before, possibly, Jason and I collected over 200 impact statements from patients that needed to move their gardens or weren't quite covered under the date, and I think they're going to look at those in court in April. I think it's the 22nd.
Wonderful.
Nice.
So then there would be the potential for people who've had to move for whatever reason. I mean, and one of them certainly would be the privacy breach that happened.
Yes, absolutely.
To be able to get to be able to be included again as far as being able to legally set up their gardens.
It is, because it's just a few words that made them not included, and it is just heart-wrenching to see that they have a valid quote pink slip, and what is it doing for them, right? So it's very unfortunate, and I really hope that in April that more Canadians are included in home growing, because they have that right.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly the difficult part when Justice Manson came forth with the Allard injunction, virtually splitting the group of those who could and those who couldn't in half.
Oh, it was horrible.
Creating division amongst patients and everything else, and now with the decision forcing patients to wait another 6 months, the division still remains.
And it's causing more harm, though, because, people, they're dying. Some are dying because they don't have the cannabis that they need, and it's all because of, paperwork.
Or paperwork, yeah. You could have a patient who was growing in a residence, and then all of a sudden, maybe their lease was up, or they had to move for some reason, and now they don't have access to the medication that they had.
There was somebody who had a fire, and the fire was deemed not due to the medical grow operation. It was not because of that. It was because of the laundry dryer, and they need to move, and it wasn't their fault, and they can't move because they can't move, and it's just they're suffering the harm from it. It's just like, that's just one example. There's so many examples out there of people that are suffering because they just can't access their medicine, and it's just not fair.
Well, and Health Canada trying to flip it on us, saying that, we're being irresponsible, we're causing neighborhoods to be unsafe, we're this, we're that, we're criminals, and
it's the fentanyl that's making the neighborhoods unsafe, the pills and the street drugs, and even booze. I'd rather my kid have cannabis and indulge in cannabis than out drinking with his buddies.
Yeah. Agree with that one.
Harm reduction, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And this is
the end of the day.
And this is not harm reduction. Like, there's so much harm to these patients. They just need to get with the program.
Yeah. There's patients that have been forced to move, and as far as patients who are maybe looking to move. And it was sort of the same argument with the patients who, the 150 gram limit. That might restrict the patient to only being able to move freely in our country for a week.
Or a day.
Or a day. Yeah.
A day. You can only go out for the day. I'm sorry. That's it. The day, that's it.
So our liberties are being restricted within our own countries to be able to move. And I look at that as far as not allowing patients to move. They're in the same situation.
Some DGs quit because of the privacy breach.
Yeah.
A lot of DGs, they just quit because they were too nervous over this info being out, and they're just there for the patient, but now they're at risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much
for sure. Well, go ahead, Deb.
So much for the idea that your government's supposed to protect you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all they have to do is open the office back up to allow it to continue.
And it's not like they're not.
As far as the paperwork and as far as the paperwork end of it all,
I believe they're quite capable of pulling that off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I don't think it would take them that much to set up an office to allow the paperwork end to be done.
Well, weren't they able to have staff in there to pull together some level of information at one point
I've
or
seen
another?
people get copies of their paperwork since the injunction, so I know there's something open, something's going on, because I've seen people get copies of their paperwork since the injunction.
Really?
So it's not like they can't just, I don't know, they're just stalling.
Were lawyers involved, or were these just something where people just turned around and just sent their paperwork and just said,
They just
take
requested their paperwork. Because I got private message, hey, look, hey, I got a copy of my paperwork. Now what do I do? And it's like, oh, wow, cool.
Yeah. So all of a sudden now I got a flood of paperwork. But hey, that's the thing. Maybe that's something patients should do, is just flood the government with a pile of requests. Force them to do something.
I wonder what they'd do if they got, there roughly 20,000 of us who are still considered to be legal in the eyes of Health Canada. If we all applied en masse to have new copies of our paperwork issued.
I'll send in renewals. Renewals and new ones. Send them all in. We want it.
Well,
it's our right.
As an act of protest because of the RCMP's abhorrent treatment of patients.
Absolutely. Look at people that are going to court. It's still costing people money, and it's been said that it's our right to grow. It's unconstitutional not to let us. And they're still charging people.
Well, and here in Nova Scotia, what we've been seeing, Jen, is patients who Health Canada should have continued to cover, and Justice Manson left out in the injunction, are being raided. They're having their plants taken, their equipment taken, personal effects taken. They get to court, they get their disclosure, they go back to court, and they're hearing that the charges are being dismissed. But
the damage is done.
Damage is done, but prosecution saying, but it's not in the interest of the public to proceed with the charges. They won't give them back their medicine. They'll give them back their personal effects, but in the meantime, they're suffering from PTSD-like symptoms, and their lives have been turned upside down. Their neighbors aren't speaking to them anymore. They've got family members that have...
They're labeled the druggies of the neighborhood.
You got it, sister. Yeah,
it's absolutely brutal. That's what happened. The privacy thing. It went to my neighbor, and my neighbor happened to take my kids to youth group and quit taking my kids to youth group because Mama uses cannabis.
Yeah.
It's just
stigma.
Brutal.
Yes.
It all goes back to the stigma.
Yes.
You just paint the big fluorescent letter C on all of our foreheads, right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, I know of a patient who was dealing with a young child situation in the hospital, and every time he went out to medicate and he came back in, you get in an elevator full of people or a few people, they're gonna smell it. And he ran into all kinds of problems and stuff just based on all that, the stigma of it all. People will have to realize that they're patients and this is medication. And well, the two of you, Deb, you're on the East Coast, and Jen, you're on the West Coast. So here in Ontario, I am. Our provincial government has just decided that they're going to include cannabis in the Tobacco Act.
That's horrible.
And patients won't be allowed to medicate unless they're in an area where tobacco can be consumed. Like, you're going to drag somebody out who's having a seizure or some other condition, that drag them out to the roadway or outside so they can, medicate.
That's just horrible.
But
But they, I see why they do it, but they give you a place to dump your needles.
Yes. Well,
you know what I mean? And I totally understand why they do it, but then why won't they allow you a place to use your cannabis? Like,
that's what's going on with
wow.
Yeah, that's what may happen with the vapor lounges, because the Tobacco Act protects employers and employees from tobacco smoke. So that means that the vapor lounges, they won't be allowed to consume cannabis because you won't be able to vaporize.
The way our Smoke-Free Act in Nova Scotia is written is set up for the very same scenario, Al. There's only 2 vapor lounges here in Nova Scotia. One is a part of the Pharmacist Medical Cannabis Resource Center and Dispensary. The other is closer to Dalhousie University. It's on the top floor of an older building. Looks like it probably was a house back in the day. They received a letter from the provincial government, if I'm not mistaken. I think it actually came from the Department of Health and Wellness, telling them, that it would have to be closed, that, they couldn't be vaporizing, couldn't have people in there breathing in smoke. The day of implementation has come and gone, and basically the place has been left alone.
Really?
Nobody's come in because nobody's actually leveled a complaint against it. And I spoke with our health minister before it was implemented, trying to encourage them to put an exclusion clause in there on behalf of medical cannabis patients. And he assured me he'd take it to the committee chair. It never did appear in the legislation itself, but he also assured me it wasn't their intention to capture medical cannabis patients in it, but in the same breath, he's saying, surely you don't mean somebody should be able to medicate in a restaurant. Here in Ontario back in November, the provincial government came out in support of medical patients. There was information in the newspaper report that I read, stating that they had advice from council that if they didn't allow patients to medicate inside, like such as a vapor lounge, that they could find themselves before court. So I hope that at some point, unfortunately, somebody may have to go to court, but in order to prove our rights to that, because you can go to a pharmacy and you can take methadone, or you can go pick up your pills right there and take them if you want, but yet a patient. We don't have all of a sudden we don't have a right to go to a place like myself, drive into Toronto and spend the day there. And if I need a nice spot, safe spot to go and medicate, when I'm in a location where I don't know anybody, it's always nice to be able to go into a lounge to allow that to happen. But now somebody like me is going to be forced back into the alley. Well, exactly. I'm sure navigating around Toronto, there aren't that many spots you'd consider safe to pull over in your vehicle and just sit there medicating.
No, never mind trying to pull over. So I don't know, Jen, you guys haven't had any whispers about this out on the West Coast, whether they want to try to do anything nasty to you like they're doing to Deb and I?
Really, they're kind of more laid back here with we token public. We do, if you probably see it a lot online, the I token public.
I've posted to that.
It's a help with the vape lounges and protesting for the vape lounges, but they're not really shutting them down here quite yet. They're more hard on the dispensaries out here.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yes, it's one battle after the other. We've all got our different battles from coast to coast, and eventually sometime this will all be settled and legalization will be here and everybody will be happy and there'll be a good medical program and patients can be happy. But until then, it's just going to be constant fighting.
Absolutely. It's an utter shame that this has to happen.
Yeah.
And realistically, do you think everybody will be happy?
No.
Never. You're
Never.
never going to make everybody happy.
Sorry for keeping it real.
I sort of see here in Ontario, we can brew as much wine and beer as we like, as long as we don't sell it. So I sort of thought, like if we're forced into an alcohol model and they allowed us to consume to grow our own cannabis, then I would hope that, as in the alcohol model, that they would allow us to produce as much cannabis as we're allowed to produce as much alcohol.
Yeah.
Which would give us unlimited. Right?
What world will that be in?
Hey, you can always try.
Can't blame a fella for trying.
That's right. Equal right across the board. Can't favor one over the other. Go ahead,
Interestingly enough, in my conversation with my MP last week, I mentioned that patients were cognizant of the fact that legalization was looming and would be no doubt moving forward within the next couple of years. But I looked him square in the eye and said, that's not going to do any good for patients at all.
No.
And his eyebrows went up, and I said that the largest plant count I've heard in any legalization model out of any government in this country has been 6 plants.
Yeah.
And he was smiling and nodding and going, that's not enough for the average patient.
No.
Health Canada knew.
Not when there's some out there with 150 grams a day. There's no way 6 plants is going to be sufficient.
Well, no, and Health Canada knew the average patient used 18 grams a day. I'm at 12, and when I said 12 grams a day and 59 plants, I think, it might have been a good plan for him to have a seatbelt on his chair, because he was quite shocked. He literally just about fell out of his chair, I thought.
My doctor's okayed me to up my grammage when this all changes. I talked to him and he's okay to up me because I've been on the same amount for 6 years now.
Do you think that they could turn around and say, okay, we're going to allow home medical growing, but we're going to restrict you to 5 grams a day?
That wouldn't be fair because there's people already for like over 10 years. Over 100 grams a day. Like that ain't even going to make him fine for 5 minutes out of the day.
Yeah. I sort of look at it as, being that the judge has
that would be unconstitutional.
At the judge has got us at the 150 gram situation right now. So that's why I sort of looked at that. And, being that they've constantly complained about people overgrowing, and we just had one within 45 minutes of my house here where a patient was caught with 700 plants over his numbers.
Ouch. I read about that one.
Yeah. So that's, I sort of looked at, I wonder if when they come out in 6 months with a new program, would they, obviously they're going to allow us to keep growing because of this recent court decision, but could they turn around and restrict the numbers to at a home growing situation? That I don't know. Let's hope not.
I hope not.
The biggest expectation I saw, or the biggest hint I saw Justice Phelan giving Health Canada, was the fact that perceived safety issues for home gardens could be alleviated with good security and proper ventilation.
I never have a problem. That's the thing. Like I don't know. I never have a problem.
No, but I could certainly, in light of that, see those two things built into the new program, new regulations, whatever the heck it's going to,
Would they?
come
Yeah,
under.
being that most municipalities already have a system in place for doing home inspections on certain things, could there be a situation where they get municipalities involved in coming in to make sure that not as far as like equipment and wiring and stuff like that is all up to code? I don't know.
That's
because
certainly.
that wasn't.
They
something
should have
that
proper inspectors, that's for sure. Provincially, they should have them for each region.
Yeah. No, you never know. It'd be interesting to see what they're going to come up with.
Or appoint it to a municipal task.
Correct. Yeah, municipalities to be able to do that type of inspection to make sure if to alleviate any safety concerns. But we know in the Allard situation that that was all thrown out as their expert witnesses weren't very much in the way of being expertly saying the right things. So.
Yeah, no, the whole fire mold and everything was totally thrown right out and laughed at.
Yeah, I know that. You know that. Deb knows that. People listening to the show know that. But I think there's a lot of people out there who obviously don't know that.
Denial.
That are in denial. That like we saw here, when they said that cannabis patients would be able to medicate publicly, it was 24 hours later, and with the big public outcry that came out, picturing people smoking joints freely in Swiss Chalet restaurants was something that people had in their minds, and the government changed the position pretty quickly. So, it's just people out there in the general public, I'm sure there's still many that believe that we're a big risk as far as safety and stuff. So it's going to take time, I think, still.
Well, and certainly look at all those months and years even, because certainly Health Canada floated that balloon before that we were in danger and they needed to pull our grow permits. But, I mean, they really did a snow job on the public with all of the media they pumped out about the dangers and all of these people who had been charged. Well, they'd been charged, but all allegations, nothing had been proven in court of people who were supposed to be selling excess of their medicine, I believe was the claim at the time. And when you did the math, it was something like 0.004% of the patients who were enrolled in the program allegedly were abusing it, when at the very same time there were more senators sitting in the upper chamber who were abusing their privileges by a long shot than there were patients who were allegedly abusing the program.
So true. Go ahead, Jen.
It's all on their money. They all just want to make the money. They just don't want us to save the money and save our lives.
Yeah, well, it's not only it saves our lives, it saves money, but I look at it saves on the whole healthcare system, because there's patients who don't need things. Maybe don't need a walker anymore. They don't need a bunch of prescription drugs anymore. And it can save so much money that way, but unfortunately, they don't look at it. They don't look at it that way. So, all right. Well, I see we've gone a little over, but that's fine. We're good there.
Just a tad.
Just a tad. That's a tad. We get the.
I actually had fun, you guys.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself.
Lots of fun.
We'll have you back, but we're not done yet. I got to ask you a question. And then I got a little blurb say at the end. So basically, Jen, this is a time where we give our guests the opportunity to highlight a person, place, a thing, a website. You want to talk about somebody. Well,
my shout out goes to the patients and to the patients that are left out for now. I hope you guys will hang on and keep the faith, because I have complete faith that this is going to turn out in our favor. And my heart goes out to you guys, and just please hang on. But yeah, my shout out is to the patients of Canada that are fighting for their gardens right now. and for their medicine.
Good. Thank you very much. That's there's a lot of them out there. I know that for sure. So, Debbie?
Well, I'm sure our listeners are going to get tired of hearing about it tonight, and I'm rather shameless in the self-promotional vein, which is somewhat out of character. But once again, I'm going to put a plug in for the National Task Force on Medicinal Cannabis. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us at medcannataskforce.org, medcannataskforce.org. There are 4 groups that have band together to form a task force to, as you heard during one of the commercials, to lobby the federal government to ensure, now with the Allard decision in place, and hopefully the federal government won't launch an appeal tomorrow, but we're lobbying to have a voice in the formation of a constitutional medical cannabis program that will enshrine the rights of, as Jenn was just talking about, all patients in this country who require cannabis for therapeutic purposes, whether they're babies who use cannabis oil to stop seizure activity, or seniors who are using cannabis to deal with Alzheimer's or whatever. We're representing the whole spectrum and striving to work toward the implementation of a constitutional program. So please, folks, check us out. Give us your support. Time is extremely limited. We have a patient volunteer lobbyist on the Hill almost on a daily basis at this point, trying to bend an ear to get a voice in there to make a difference for folks like you. And to all of the people who were involved with the making of this show tonight. So at this point, I'll step down off of my soapbox and let Al wrap up the show.
No problem, Deb. It's always good to know what groups are doing by forming this task force, whether it's this task force or something else. Groups working together amongst themselves in order for a greater goal. That's always good. No problem with promoting that. And as you said, we do run the commercial. I believe it's during the second break. If anybody didn't catch that, go back to the break and you can hear it there. So.
Well, thanks, Alan. I'm just going to slide in just one more quick word. A shout out of thanks to you for airing these public service announcements on the P.A.C.E radio show, and to Al Rapp for running them as well on his 420 radio show.
You're very welcome, Deb. It's what we can do to help spread the word, and we've got ourselves a big voice here. So we're trying to spread it as far as wide for everybody. So, all right. Tonight, as I mentioned earlier, tonight's music was by the Hicks out in British Columbia. And as we depart tonight, we're going to play a little bit of that song. And we noticed we did it in the last show. We're going to do it tonight. Maybe it's something we're going to continually do. And then that way our listeners will be able to hear more of that music. But before I leave, I have to remind everybody to let you know that I will be back next Wednesday with my joint host, Kim Cooper, and our guest, Ted Smith of Cannabis Digest, as we continue to promote those who are fighting to bring an end to cannabis prohibition. You can find P.A.C.E on Twitter at P.A.C.E Radio, or you can also like the P.A.C.E Radio show on Facebook. We'll also be found on the web at P.A.C.E-online.ca, or you can find us by searching for People Advocating Cannabis Education. Thank you go out to our sponsor, the friendly folks at BMA Hydroponics, who are located in Belleville, Ontario. Al Rapp of LifestyleRadio.ca. Also, a big thank you to our guest, cannabis patient advocate Jenn Bennett, and my joint host, Debbie Stultz-Giffin of Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana. Plus, a big thank you to you, our listeners. Thank you for tuning into the program, and good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
2 hours late. That's some serious ass BC weed. Dang, boy, wait a minute. We got some video to shoot. You're 2 hours late.
I forgot.
What did you forget?
Can't remember.
That's 'cause you forgot. Roll us a damn joint. We got some video to shoot.
Okay, all right, I will.
I said roll us a joint, not do a bong hit. We got some video to shoot. All right, boys. Now, don't forget, I'm the director. Billy, grab your guitar. Gabby, grab your guitar. All right, boys, let's do it. Hey, hi out there, it's in the air. It's BC, but tonight the pressure blows and the embers glow as they give the bong a light. The buds they grind, I do find this shit's really insane. The crowd it roars, 'cause Bobby scores some BC Mary Jane. Oh, the good old BC smoke is the best smoke you can toke. And the best smoke you can toke is the good old BC smoke. Hey, second verse. Where the potheads stash the greatest hash with buds they do grind. They roll 'em fat like baseball bats for 20 all the time. They grow like trees with bumblebees. They smoke 'em with a burning flame. So crystal white, it's dynamite, the BC Mary Jane. Oh, the good old BC smoke is the best smoke you can toke. And the best smoke you can toke is the good old BC smoke. Oh, the good old BC smoke is the best smoke you can toke. And the best smoke you can toke is the good old BC smoke. Third period, last joint in the bag. Oh, take me where the potheads go, and the weed it smells like skunk. And have a treat, made to eat, a butter made from bunk. Oh, spark a bowl and torch the knives, take that doobie down. Roll a blunt of BC skunk, 'cause it's the best bud ever found. Oh, the good old BC smoke is the best smoke you can toke. And the best smoke you can toke is the good old BC smoke. Oh, the good old BC smoke is the best smoke you can toke. And the best smoke you can toke is the good old BC smoke. Yeah!
And a big bud.
2 joints.
Well, of your dreams, it's gotta be in some bar.
Sorry, boys and girls, but this is X-rated. So if you're under 18...
Get out, goddammit! Get the point? Good.
And now?
Bend over.
Y'all ready for this?